Former Secretary of State and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, one of 19 Americans that President Biden awarded the Medal of Freedom last night. Another was controversial Democratic donor George Soros. It's time now for our Sunday group. Fox News contributor and Outkick columnist Mary Catherine Ham, former State Department spokesperson and Fox News contributor Marie Harf, Doug Heye, former RNC communications director and founder of Douglas Media, and Mario Parker, Bloomberg managing editor for U.S. Economy and Government. Thank you guys for being here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so these recipients, Mary Catherine, I mean, there was a long list, but a number of them were prominent critics of Trump. Do you think that Biden was trying to send a message with this list?
Yes, but I think that most presidents do. And I'm going to surprise everybody by saying that I think it's good that Hillary Clinton got this award, because not a lot of novelists and fiction writers get the award. And yet the Hillary Clinton campaign financed and created one of the greatest works of fiction in living memory in the Steele dossier. And despite it being total fiction, it enthralled the press and the intel community and federal law enforcement for years. And so I applaud her for that work of fiction. I'm excited about the work she does in the future on her totally fictional presidency.
I was going to go somewhere else, but I got to let Marie say something.
You really came in hot this morning. I love it. My friend Mary Catherine
I just want to applaud her.
Brought the 2025 energy. All presidents do this. Donald Trump gave the Medal of Freedom to Miriam Adelson, one of his top donors. He gave it to a bunch of sports athletes and people like Tiger Woods. This is what presidents do. I think there were a number of people like Jose Andres, across the political aisle, who may be a critic of Trump, but people admire for his work providing food in places that have gone through natural disasters in the U.S. and around the world. So a lot of people that we can applaud on this list. I think Joe Biden was nice in the way he did this. Presidents do this. All of them do. Yeah.
Well, Doug, I mean, the president also gave Liz Cheney and Benny Thompson the Presidential Citizens Medal for their work on the January 6th committee. Do you see a jab at Trump on his way out the door with that?
Potentially so. Again, this is what presidents do. Miriam Adelson being a good example of that. We could go back to Obama. Certainly a lot of Obama supporters he gave awards to, donors as well. So a lot of this is business as usual. And I was just in Asheville, North Carolina over the break. I saw the work that Jose Andres' World Central Kitchen did up close. It's still really bad out there. I was thrilled to see him honored. But what I saw also was the president who made the first Trump administration, or the candidate who made the first Trump administration happen, be decorated by the person who made the second Trump administration happen. And there was a certain poetry to that.
All right, we're moving on.
Poetry's one word for it, though.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving on. The president is drawing some bipartisan criticism for blocking the sale of U.S. steel to Japanese company Nippon. The CEO blasted this decision, saying, quote, President Biden's action today is shameful and corrupt. He gave political payback to a union boss out of touch with his members while harming our company's future, our workers, and our national security. He insulted Japan, a vital economic and national security ally, and put American competitiveness at risk. The Chinese Communist Party leaders in Beijing are dancing in the streets. Mario, did the president play right into China's hand with this decision? What could the impact be?
I'm not sure. This is one of the rare instances in which Biden and Trump agree on, right? Trump has also said that he would be opposed to the deal. A couple of things going on here, both domestically and in foreign policy-wise. Pennsylvania, right? It's a key battleground state. Unions are involved. Both parties are vying for the affection of the unions. Joe Biden has called himself the most pro-union president of all time. So there's that. The other thing is that the national security apparatus for the current president, soon to be former president, they were split on it, right? So there was a school of thought that this undermines a key ally. Japan is one of the biggest foreign investors in the United States, right? We've got 50,000 some troops there as well. But business is business, and there's a risk, and COVID highlighted this, where we don't have the onshoring of our supply chain, where anything can happen, and steel is a vital material for us.
Well, Marie, I mean, I'll ask you because of your experience at the State Department. How much is this going to hurt the U.S. relationship with Japan?
This is one of the areas I actually disagree with President Biden. And if we can believe the reporting that Mario just alluded to, so did Jake Sullivan, so did John Feiner. The top national security officials said this could really hurt our relationship with Japan. There's reporting that the Prime Minister of Japan actually weighed in, sent a letter to President Biden asking him to approve this. That's a very rare step for a prime minister to take and a president to disagree with. a lot of the workers also wanted this deal to go through. Nippon promised to spend almost $3 billion shoring up U.S. Steel, which has had a lot of problems. They pledged to adhere to the United Steelworkers, their latest contract. So I think this is one area where Joe Biden's personal and political feelings about unions, about the steel industry, really took hold over the national security argument, which I don't like when national security threats are used to justify these kinds of decisions, because I just don't think that that threat is there, and neither did the national security team.
And Marie highlights something that's an interesting dynamic here. You know, typically what we've seen with the Biden White House is they are incredibly disciplined on not having leaks. Obviously, the fact that every White House staffer thought that Joe Biden was capable of doing the job for 4 years is a good example. But we've heard a lot of dissension from within the administration on this, from the Secretary of State to obviously Rahm Emanuel, the Japanese, the ambassador to Japan. That's really rare in this situation, and it shows, you know, I think what a political mistake this might have been for Biden.
I want to ask you, Mary Catherine, one specific question, because U.S. Steel and Nippon both accused Biden of manipulating the CFIUS process in pursuit of a political end. The Wall Street Journal editorial board said this could really have some far-reaching consequences. They said Mr. Biden's essentially redefining national security to include economic nationalism, which will introduce many new gates for political interference. Unions and corporate competitors now know they can use CFIUS as another political lever to block investments that they don't like. Is this going to send a chill to foreign investors?
I think it rationally would. It's sending the message that it's going to be much harder to get through this process and that you're not looking at the normal barriers and the normal things that might stop you. And when it comes to the economic security part of this, one of the things CFIUS report cites is a possibility of less U.S. steel output. You know what else would cause less U.S. steel output? Is if they don't get an infusion of capital that they need to survive as a company, and then you get much less U.S. steel output.
Yeah, there is a concern now from investors and economists that U.S. Steel could be sold off piecemeal in a bankruptcy. Do you believe there's any argument, Mario, that could win in court, because you've had Nippon and U.S. Steel both vowing to challenge this?
I think what the other panelists have alluded to is something that it's quite a possibility, right? They both threatened to have some type of legal action. We don't know what comes out in discovery at all. And the fact that CFIUS had, before this point, had been a black box in previous administrations. So we're not sure what can be unsurfaced in emails, communications, et cetera, on how this came about.
Doug, I want to ask you, to the point made earlier, both Trump and Biden opposed this. Do you think we're witnessing sort of a swing toward protectionism in the U.S.?
Yeah, it's also a bit of horseshoe politics. On a lot of issues, the more to the right and the more to the left you go, the more you sort of meet at that place. So, Donald Trump got a lot of labor support, as we've seen. Joe Biden has positioned himself as the most pro-labor president that we've ever had. Not terribly surprising that on an issue like this, they'd be in agreement.
Marie, at what cost is this happening? Because, as Mario mentioned, the other company who was bidding for this came up short. And now, U.S. Steel is sort of in the lurch.
This is something that Donald Trump and future presidents will have to deal with. I mean, Mario also alluded to COVID and the fact that there was this idea in the last 5 years that we wanted to bring more of our supply chain, more of these critical industries back to the United States. I think most of us agree that in general that's a good thing for a number of reasons. But the world is globalized, and this company, U.S. Steel, needs cash. And there have to be ways for foreign companies to invest in American companies, to continue to do that, to have all boats rise together economically in our country and around the world, and to protect American workers and our supply chains. There has to be a way to thread that needle. And it felt like this deal was possibly one of those ways, with U.S. Steel, with Nippon pledging to maintain some of the guardrails that we care about in this country. Union contracts, for example, pledging to invest in this company. So this is something that future presidents, that Congress, that all these folks are going to have to deal with. And this idea that we just go back to protectionism and that we sort of close our doors and shut out the rest of the world, it's just not reality. And American companies and workers will suffer if we try to do that.
And one of Joe Biden's core promises was, hey, allies, I'm with you. I'm a rational actor and you can work with me. This really puts a damper on all of that talk that we've heard from day one from the Biden administration. It
was surprising, and it seems like they knew that because they signed off on an arms deal the same day that they killed the sale here. So We'll be right back, panel. We'll leave it there for just the moment.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.